Thank you, David. Cathryn Berger Kaye. I almost said Cathy Berger King. Where's that coming? Sounds like a fast food restaurant. Cathryn Berger Kaye. Now, I'm biased here because Cathy is a friend of mine. I think for me, what stands out is that Cathy is generous of spirit. In just the 2.5 years that she has been working with AISA, we see the impact that she has had. We see the number of schools she has worked with. We see the fantastic work she has done with the Service Learning Working Group. Her generosity of spirit sends out what she has created, and that, I think, ripples across the network of schools that we are part of. It is a very great pleasure to welcome to the stage Cathryn Berger Kaye.
Now, little technology moment before my clock starts. Hi, my name is Cathryn Berger Kaye. I come from Los Angeles. I live in LA and airports. I'd like to tell the story of how my journey has evolved, and it actually started in my first job. I taught in a one-room schoolhouse in rural Maine. Now, I'd like to clarify, that is not me or the school in which I worked, in case you're wondering. However, the school I worked in was down a dirt road, and it had a wind chill factor in Maine inside the building, and it had a furnace, and I had to get up in the morning and go down and get the school warm during the day. So the school actually looked more like this. And it was my first teaching job, and I was influenced by the two people who founded the school, George and Mabel Dennison. Mabel was a teacher and George was a writer. And George had written how Mabel was teaching in New York and doing some very amazing things. It was really the first book on progressive education that was ever written. And they founded this school in rural Maine, and I got to teach there. It was quite amazing, my first teaching job. Now, I'd like you just to imagine a brand new teacher. Do you remember what that was like? Anybody here? You remember the expression on your face all the time, like something like that? And Mabel was this very large woman, and she liked you when you were babies and liked you less as you got older. And Mabel used to yell at me all the time, stop with the lesson plans and listen to the children. Now, that may be shocking with you at a time when lesson plans are quite important, but that's what she kept saying to me. Whereas George would come in and say, where's the chaos? He was looking for the creative chaos all the time. So between her telling me to stop with the lesson plans and him telling me about where's the chaos, I was a mess. And then one day, it's a true story, then one day the students came in and they were upset. And I had my lesson plans ready, but they were upset because in the community, Dutch elm disease had hit their precious trees. And the students were really concerned about this. Now, I was a city girl. I still didn't know the difference between an oak or an elm, so it didn't quite hit me in the same way. But the students were upset, and right there in that moment, I had to reconsider what was more important, the way I wanted to teach or the way the students wanted to learn. And then I understood what Mabel had been telling me. Listen to the children. And so they came to me and they said, what are we going to do? And I genuinely said, I don't know, but we'll find out. And within 3 days, these students were walking around the streets with the information from the Department of Agriculture, monitoring and measuring the trees so they knew which ones were too diseased to help and which ones could be saved. And these students had empowered themselves to make choices and be contributors in the community. And I realized, what a way to learn. This really matters. And that made a huge impact on me. So what I realized at that moment was I was able to help move learning from I have to what? To I want to. And that transformed so much about how I approached learning. I still worked as intensely as I did, but I worked smarter and I worked not harder. And this helped me understand how when students want to learn, this shifts everything. When there's something they care about. I call this heart-mind connection. When students have a heart for something, they want to learn about it. And that pentagon is actually my representation for a crown, because the heart is the affective part and the crown is the cognitive part, and they must go together. In fact, neurologists tell us that all through, from childhood through adolescence, and does anyone know how old adolescence goes up to now? Anybody know? It's 25, or the age of your partner or spouse. I'm not sure which. So all through adolescence, we've taken information first from our emotions to our intellect. And you know this is true, because when young people want to learn what's going on in your classroom, how much harder will they work? When they care about it, how much harder will they work? Do you know the difference? Am I right? And when they don't care about it, how much harder do you have to work? Right? So this is the key here, is if they care a little, they want to learn a lot. And this is really dramatic. This is important. So what I've found is young people crave more than anything experiences. And we've heard some of this already today. The young people want challenges, and this matters. They want challenges that are significant. They want challenges that are real, that are engaging, and that are purposeful, and that add up to what I call a sense of adventure. A sense of adventure. Now, I know with my own daughter, when she was 5, she's now 30, but when she was 5 and I was tucking her into bed one night, and she looked up at me with those big brown eyes, she said, "Mommy, when am I going to have adventures like you?" And I knew that's what they crave. And then years later, I was reading a book by Milos Kundera that was called Identity, a beautiful book. And in the book, he defines adventure as a way to embrace the world. So how do we do that? In our busy schools, where we have so much to do and so many demands and so many people asking us to do more and more and more. Does that scenario sound familiar to anybody in this room? In that way, how do we find the ability to create that authentically for our students? So this is my big idea. You ready? Can I have a drum roll, please? Come on, everybody, drum roll. Ah, yes. Blank space. Is that profound? Okay. So how many of you would like a little blank space during the day? How many of you need a time to pause for a moment? How many of you eat through lunch? How many of you have too much to do? Anybody here recognize this as a reality? We need some blank space. So, I have a lot of things about quotes. I love quotes. In fact, if you get my business card later, you'll see on the back of them I have 50 different quotes I circulate. But I found some new quotes. Because when I think about it, what I think I would do with blank space, first, what would you do with blank space? Take a moment for a little blank space. Just pause. What would you do with a little blank space? Just take a moment now of my 12 minutes just to be blank. What would you do? I'll show you 3 things I think I would want to do. One has to do with discovery. I would want to make more opportunities for young people to have opportunities for discovery. So I found a quote that helps tell that story. It's from an astronaut, Neil Armstrong. "It's hard to face that open space." Then I think we would also want to add some creativity. So I found a quote by Irvin Wallace. "I enjoy the freedom of the blank page." And I think blank space gives us more time to help us understand our own personal sense of identity. So I found a quote about that from Tobey Maguire, the actor. "I am a blank slate, therefore I can create anything I want." And then I found a quote that shows what happens if we don't go for blank space. And that's from comedian Lily Tomlin. She says, "The problem with the rat race is even if you win, you're still a rat." Where can we find blank space? Where can we find it? I have 2 suggestions for blank space. Are you ready for 2 specific suggestions that you can do every day? How many times when you're teaching and you give directions to students, they ask you, "What do you want me to do?" Do you hear that all day long? I know, because they're telling you exactly what they mean. What do you want me to do to please you? That's what they're saying. And what I would suggest you to do is do exactly the opposite, under-direct. The more you under-direct students, you give them space to think, to figure it out, to find creativity, to figure out who they are, to meet that challenge and to figure out what they want to do with it. So under-direct your students. Give it a shot. Give it a try. Under-direct and see what happens. The other is we need to find significant moments in their learning for what I call meaningful reflection, when we really, truly pause for meaningful reflection. Let me just say, this is not reflection. Could everybody take out your notebook? You've got 3 questions for you to answer in 4 minutes. Ready, go. That's not what I call meaningful reflection. We need students to have meaningful moments so they find significance in those moments and then they want to reflect. I don't think we should require reflection. I think we should inspire reflection. So if we inspire it, we dive deeper. And that's what we want, is for young people to be deep sea divers into the experience that we're calling learning and life. So I think we need to make sure we have a sense of purpose. How many of you, when you were just looked out the window, wonder, why am I learning this? Anybody besides me? How many of you now look out the window, wonder, why am I teaching that? Anybody besides me? We have to know the why. We've got to find the why. And when students know the why, they want to learn. They want to move it forward. So we have to clarify the why. Now, one of the things we have to watch out for is if we have too much extrinsic rewards and extrinsic things going on with students, we're going to crowd out that place we really want. There'll be no space for intrinsic to grow. So watch out for that. Watch out for that. Also, if we over-control and manage students, we do not have room to engage and inspire them. So we have to replace control and manage with engage and inspire. And you can see that in the videos shown today from ISB, the whole difference of controlling and manage and engage and inspire. When we do this, this is what we start creating, is this heart-mind connection. My response to blank space, is actually service learning. I think I lost a slide in there. The idea of service and learning blends the heart and mind together, because when we do that, we create opportunities to think, to ask questions, to respond, to see who they are, to feel the vitality of themselves. And in service learning, we find that essence, that importance. Now, Aristotle, as you see, said it a little while ago, education of the mind without educating the heart is no education at all. So we can do this. We can blend together, create open space for that intrinsic knowing to come forth, and for students to find out who they are and see who they are as resilient, lively human beings. You know, I used to think the word responsibility meant you took out the garbage and you did your homework on time. And then a woman told me, my mentor, one of my mentors, Terry Braithwaite, said, no, that's not it, Kathy. We have to rethink the word. We want young people to have responsibility, the ability to respond. And when we create space in our rooms, in our classrooms, for them to actually identify real issues, to meet them, to see who they are, and we're not always giving the answer, we're under-directing, we create space for them to feel who they are in that real authentic way and to see who they are in their identity. These are just images of young people all around the world who are taking time to know other people, to learn about the assets of a community as well as their needs, to really respectfully engage in community participation and find problems that they really agree what and how they can solve them together. This clock thing is really true. We only have another minute. So at all ages they can start. So what I think is really important, one of the reasons I want to do this is because I want to bring back what I call the bounce. I really want you to know that. So I want to give you a quick example. Could you remember for a moment when you were 8 years old? Anybody, could you just do that with me in my last 30 seconds? Remember when you were 8 years old and you wanted to get the teacher's attention? What would you do? Could you show me what you used to do? Right? That's it, the bounce. We need to bring this bounce back, because when a student does that, that's not the time to control and manage them and say, oh, I'll call on you when you sit quietly. No, that's the time to say, we got a bouncer. What's your idea? We need to bring the bounce back. I want you to bring the bounce back. Make space for that. I have a problem on my last 1 second, and it's my exit line. You see, my idea of blank space was co-opted by a very popular singer in the United States. Some of you may have heard of Taylor Swift. Here's her line. And I'll call your name.